Happy Father's Day this Sunday to all the fathers out there. I'm saddened that I'm not able to go to Virginia to visit with my father, but things being the way they are right now in 2020, it's just not practical. But speaking of Virginia, this week I want to read for you an open letter to a friend of mine, a dear friend of mine in Virginia. Dear friend, I have received the articles you sent regarding the movement to remove statues and erase history across the land. You must have noticed that I've been uncharacteristically quiet about the events occurring in Richmond and around the country. Monuments to Confederate soldiers and leaders are being toppled or removed amidst violence and chaos. Now, at one level, these events grieve my Southern heart and wound my Southern pride. But when I hold my tongue long enough for the knee-jerk reaction to these events to subside, and I allow myself to listen, think, and step outside of myself, these seemingly destructive events begin to make sense. Now, don't get me wrong. No one has greater respect for Robert E. Lee than I do. He was a tragic figure, far from perfect, and a man of his times. He was no more in favor of slavery than any other man, but he was not against it. He fought for his homeland, for his state, and always did what he perceived to be his duty. Once he perceived that the struggle was irretrievably lost, he ended it. He sacrificed his home, his health, and he believed his personal honor in doing what he thought was right. Ironically, Lee became more of a leader after the war than he was during it. And though Lee died a contrite and broken man, the legend of Lee grew until it became the flawless, gleaming vessel of the myth of the lost cause. And that cause was only decided on the battlefield, never in courts. Though Confederate President Jefferson Davis was captured and accused of treason, he was released without trial after 2 years of imprisonment, because the United States was not certain they could win in a battle over the legality of secession. But you and I know that history is seldom black and white. History is nuanced, and its true lessons live in shades of gray. But nuance is wasted on a mob. Mob mentality recognizes only dichotomy, up or down, good or evil, us or them, slave owner or non-slave owner. If you're not with them, you're against them. I have already come to terms with the idea that the monuments of Richmond's famous Monument Avenue will soon be only memory. But that is the way of all monuments. History shows us that monuments do not last. They are fleeting reminders of what people once revered. But people change. Ideals change. Nothing is permanent. Otherwise, we would still have the Colossus of Rhodes, or the Great Library of Alexandria, or groundwater in California, and Aztec culture. So the removal of monuments is not an erasing of history, as I've heard so many call it, but it is rather an acknowledgement of the continuity of history and our part, the validity of our part in making it. Thomas Kempis, in his book The Imitation of Christ, reminded us of the transitory nature of worldly things when he said, The glory given or received of men is short-lived, and the glory of the world is ever companioned by sorrow. The lost cause is lost. To continue to mourn it neither honors it nor disposes us to embrace a future where we focus on what unites us rather than what divides us. Now, I expect some of my friends and family will probably label me a leftist or a liberal or worst of all, a Yankee. But such labels really serve no purpose, and they deny the same nuance that makes history meaningful. If you feel betrayed because I seem to have broken ranks, rest assured that I have not. Because you and I call ourselves Christians. We want the same thing. We want to live in love and charity with those whom God has given us, with simply everyone. The gospel reading for this week has Jesus saying, "Do not think that I have come to bring peace on earth. I have not come to bring peace, but a sword. For I have come to set a man against his father, and a daughter against her mother, and a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law, and a man's foes will be those of his own household. He who does not take his cross and follow me is not worthy of me." Now, this has forever been, for me, a confusing and counterintuitive message of Christ. Where are the love and tolerance, the peace and the harmony of God's kingdom of heaven that is drawn near? Well, it's still there. But in order to be faithful to the expectations of God, we must sometimes turn away from the expectations of family or friends or even ourselves. If we cannot let go of whatever is incompatible with God's plan for us, we cannot fully consummate our purpose in God's kingdom. The issues that seem so contentious to us these days are nothing compared to what will come if we cannot resolve them with honesty and respect. People may be wrong about the historical facts of a matter, yet still be right about the problems caused by it. If we continue to problem solve based on methods that have proven problematic, how can we expect anything to ever change for the better? I don't know what the answer is to the woes of our country right now if it isn't love and forbearance in the name of God. But I do believe that we will never advance socially or culturally as a free people if we are continually angered by folks who we perceive are fatally flawed in their capacity for reason. You know, the idiots. Well, be assured that they feel the same way about you. I heard someone say that the average person today listens not to deeply consider the opinions of others, but they listen simply enough to prepare a response to what they hear. That approach can never provide a place for a healing dialogue to start. It's a really tough job, but someone needs to make the effort to listen without responding, to hear what is being said without feeling attacked, and to love the speaker because, right or wrong, he is God's creation and your brother. American history is filled with glorious deeds, selfless sacrifice, political travesties, outright genocide, unabashed money-grubbing, official robbery, mayhem, and murder, double dealing, and broken promises. Whenever there was money to be had, patriotic ideals and fine intentions drifted away like smoke. We have forgotten, erased, and ignored more of the history of this country than we ever commemorated. I mean, look at our Native American populations. Unless they become a significant voting demographic, they will never receive justice for their treatment at the hands of the United States. And if they do, someday we might see statues of white mustachioed army officers handing out blankets infected with smallpox to Mandan Indian women and children. Each of us chooses what is important to remember in history and what is expedient to forget. Nothing of man lasts forever. Not monuments, not countries, not even history. The choices we make, the stands we take, these things define us not only for ourselves, but in the eyes of others and in the eyes of God. So what is really important? What is worth the sacrifice of our happiness and our peace? What is worth the loss of a single friend? What is the hill on which we wish to die? In my experience, Jesus Christ died on the only hill worth defending. The hill of redemption from sin and shame in the name of God. And you know what? He did it for simply everyone. And for that, thanks be to God.